Yes, you should monitor your workers at home, but not because you don't trust them. All right, this is an article from The Guardian. I'm going to react to this one. If you're loving our reaction series, give me a thumbs up, and I would love to share with you what's in this bad boy. I've been sent an article from The Guardian to react to, which is about monitoring your remote workers. And we have a remote team. We've been running a remote team for a long time. We help businesses set up and scale remote teams. We help businesses systemize, organize, and scale their companies using Google Workspace and a number of other technology tools. And so we love to geek out about remote management, remote teams, and how it all works together, and especially when technology is involved. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's in this article. Now, we've all switched to this remote working reality during the pandemic, and we were actually running a remote team all working from home for a long time before that happened, about 5 or 6 years. And then when the pandemic happened and everyone was sent home and fired up a Zoom account and tried to keep working the way they were working previously, we started to notice some of the wheels falling off. And so we've done a lot of work on this channel and inside our free Genius Academy to teach businesses how to adopt to a new way of working. Now, this article is talking about cyber crime and how these attacks can actually affect your business. And let's see what they have to say about teams working from home. Now, according to a recent report by the New York Times, 8 out of the 10 largest private US employers are using software and other technologies to track the productivity of their teams at office and home. And they are installing software to see how long people are logged into their computers, how much time they're spending on work-related activities. And, either some people have screenshots and those kind of things to actually, track whether or not things are actually happening. Now, here's the interesting thing about tracking. We've had lots of questions about that over the years because we have a large team based in the Philippines. And so for most people who are running businesses who, let's say you're in the US or you're in Australia or you're in the UK and you want to build outsourced or remote teams in different countries and different locations, particularly those who have more favorable pay rates that you can get a little bit of arbitrage happening in the market that you're operating in. Well, many people will come to us and say, hey, how should I track my employees? How should I make sure that anyone who's working remotely for me is actually productive? And I've always been of the opinion that you shouldn't track people's individual computers for the work that they are doing. And you should instead set fair KPIs, monitor them well, and manage your team well with great leaders and great managers inside your business so that you don't have to take the control measure of actually monitoring what's going on someone's individual desktop. Now, obviously, large corporations typically side on the side of distrust of their employees. And so they're probably going to be installing things like monitoring software and things that do like weird screenshots and whatnot. But that's not necessarily going to solve the problem of poor employee performance. And it's definitely not going to solve the problem of employee attentiveness if your employees decide that they don't want to work for you. Now, we've known this for a long time because we've operated out of the Philippines, which there is a culture of virtual assistants. And that culture of virtual assistants will often have multiple gigs running for multiple people, or they'll be moonlighting where they work for one job during the day and then they work for another job. But what tends to happen is those two jobs can actually start to merge together, and people are on the payroll for two jobs at the same time and billing those two companies for a full day's work. And I stumbled across just a couple of months ago a forum called Overwork on Reddit, and that sub-community inside Reddit actually talks about and helps teach people to take on multiple remote jobs where you will actually be able to earn multiple revenues and multiple incomes at the same time as a remote worker. Now, for those that are in that subreddit, this is nothing new. It's been happening for a long time. But I'm really glad to see that this conversation is happening around productivity of people working at home. Now, personally, I don't believe in monitoring people's machines. I think if you've got great KPIs in the business, you shouldn't need to. And we try and have a culture of openness and respect and responsibility and trusting our employees instead of trying to control them. I think that promotes better teamwork, and I think that promotes better values alignment for your team as well when they don't feel like they're being distrusted by their employer. So what's the justification that these businesses have for actually monitoring people's computers? Well, that is so that the company can use the data to determine productivity levels and identify rule breakers. The same report also claims that Amazon tracks smartphone data for its delivery drivers to monitor their efficiency and identify unsafe driving practices. Okay, so it goes on to say surveillance is booming. Sales of employee monitoring software has gone crazy. They've got some examples there. industry is expected to grow from 488 million to 1.7 billion by 2029. And so we're spending a lot of time monitoring people's productivity, and we're spending a lot of time trying to work out what people are actually doing on their computers. The article says you should not be monitoring their productivity, attentiveness, or number of clicks. That is a waste of time and resources. I agree. Creates a toxic culture. I agree. If a below average employee is committed to wasting an employer's time, they'll find a way to do it without you knowing. I triply agree. Your employees are grown-ups. They've been paid to do what they promised to do, so don't bother monitoring them for their work. I strongly agree. But the article goes on to say, this doesn't mean you shouldn't be monitoring them while they're working at home. Why? Because they're remote employees and you can still have security problems. So the report says that the FBI saw a 300% increase in reported cybercrime attacks since COVID-19, and predictions reveal that it is going to be a soft target for more than half of cybercrime attacks in the next 5 years. And I strongly agree with that. And the issue here is that many people have gone home and they've logged into their work stuff on their home computer, and they're now sitting at their home computer getting things done. The very scary thing for employers, if you're a business owner, that means you, is that when someone is working on a computer or a device that you don't control the security of, it can really open up your company to a lot of risk. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, someone's working on a computer in their home, and on that computer, a crypto virus hits, and all of a sudden it is synchronizing encrypted files to your Google Drive and messing up Google Drive for everyone in your company. Now that can happen very easily, and there is no just one button click undo button inside your Google Drive to actually fix that problem. And we've had many customers that come to us who have a complete mess of Google Workspace account that then means they're not able to get their work done. And if you don't have a third-party backup solution implemented, well, it may take weeks to actually recover from that, as we had one of our customers who was a law firm with 30 employees find out. Because they didn't have a third-party backup for their Google Workspace account, they had to restore files in Google Drive one by one to earlier revisions of those files, which took them literally weeks to get done and cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost productivity. Now let's look into some of the other reasons the article says this is a bad idea. If you're using older versions of Windows or Apple iOS or older routers at home, you may have weak passwords, software may be out of date, there may be vulnerabilities, and there are viruses and malware that can particularly jump in. Now, if you're using something like a Chrome device, a Chromebook, or a Chrome box, much less likely to have malware, much less likely to have viruses, and that's why I operate on those right across the business for myself and for many of our employees as well. And you can also see here that employees lack training. We have literally worked with partners where we have a product where we can actually send a fake phishing email out to our customers' employees just to see whether or not employees will click on it. So if you're interested in doing a security test inside your company, well, you might be interested in getting in touch with us to help facilitate that. But let me tell you, the results are pretty crazy. Many people will immediately click on something that comes into their email that looks like a message from a legitimate bank or from a tax department without actually checking who the email is from, and that will be another video for another day. We also click and we download and we browse and we install things without thinking. Yes, we do. We're sharing our computers with our kids. Yes, we are. That puts us in a very vulnerable position. So because of this, we do need to be monitored, said the article. No, not our activities, but we do need an IT firm to keep close look on each one of your employees to make sure that the computers are connected. Now, they haven't actually given much of an input on what you can do on a practical level to actually make sure that these security holes are sealed up. So I'm going to give you a few things that you can actually do to make sure things are looked after. Number one, device approvals. Very, very important. You can switch this on inside your Google Workspace account, and device approvals allow you to manually approve one by one each computer or each device that connects to a new account inside your Google Workspace account. Now, why might that be a good idea? Well, you don't want employees to be willy-nilly installing and getting access to your company data on any device that they like. If your mobile phone inside a business doesn't have a passcode attached and someone leaves that on a train, then someone has access to all of your company data. If you have a computer that has a virus on it in someone's home, well, then that's potentially going to be synchronizing encrypted files or corrupted files to your Google Drive, which is going going to impact the productivity of everyone. And how do you make sure that that's managed? Well, you make sure that any device that has company data on it actually has security protocols and processes in place to make sure that it is well protected and to make sure that you're not going to run into issues with company data being shared with third parties. Now, what's the absolute worst case scenario in something like this happening? Well, if someone gains access to one of the accounts inside your business, the absolute worst thing that might happen is they impersonate one of your employees, send you an email, pretend to be your finance manager and say, hey, could you just make this transaction to this supplier by the end of the day? They've read all your emails, they've read your Google Drive, they know who your suppliers are. It sounds like a legitimate email that they're asking for, or a legitimate bank transfer rather. And in that moment, you don't know to check the account numbers. You don't know that the account numbers have been changed to someone else's account. And you make that transfer, bang, $10,000 or more is gone from your business. And unfortunately, we've seen this happen with our clients over and over again. Second step you can take is setting two-factor authentication right across your Google Workspace account. You should already have this as a policy, but if you don't already, implement that in the security features of your account, and that will make sure that everyone who has a Google account, even if their passwords are compromised, has a second layer of protection just in case something goes wrong. Thirdly, implement mobile device policies. You can actually switch on Android for work and Android Enterprise mobile device policies, which allow you to lock down Android devices, and you can also use iOS policies to make sure that your iOS devices are locked down too. You want to do things like enable password enforcement, making sure that everyone has a password on their account, and making sure that the device policy allows you to perform a corporate wipe on devices as well. A corporate wipe allows you to remove all of the company data once an employee has finished at your business. And for the most part, because you're using Gmail and Google Calendar and whatnot, not much data is going to be left over once you change your password and remove somebody from their account. But when you do have a corporate wipe set up inside your mobile device management options, it lets you do a clean wipe of all company data once an employee has left your business without touching any of their personal data on their mobile devices. Next up, you should ensure each device in your company has some kind of monitoring on that individual device for things like viruses, malware, spyware, crypto-locker viruses. That would be something called endpoint management. And endpoint management will make sure that the individual devices are secured, and if there are any viruses or malware, if it's a Mac or if it's a PC, that those are dealt with rapidly. You may choose to have some, remote backup run on those machines. That's the kind of thing that you want to talk to your IT consultant about, or have a chat with us if you're interested in implementing a policy for that. Finally, if you haven't already considered switching to Chrome devices, they make all of this super easy. You can set a simple policy on a Chrome device so that any files stored on a local computer are automatically backed up to someone's Google Drive. Chrome devices are very, very, very protected from malware, spyware, viruses. Crypto lockers basically don't exist. They are the most secure operating system that you can use for business, and they are deeply integrated with the Google Workspace ecosystem, making your life an absolute dream. Now, security-wise, they're also fantastic because everyone has to use a Google account to log in to an individual Chrome device, whether it's a Chromebook or a Chromebox or any other Chrome-based device that you're using. And so that means that someone's login is tied to their Google account. And so if they're sharing a device with their kids can log in with a Gmail address, and they won't be anywhere near the work setup of your company. Now, if you can't do that, if you haven't rolled out Chrome devices to your business, if you're on a Windows machine or a Mac machine at home, well, you can do the simple things like setting up multiple user accounts to make sure that each person in your business has one dedicated account for actually getting their work done, separate from all their kids' stuff, separate from their partner, and separate from leaving a computer completely open and unlocked in your lounge room for anyone to sit down and potentially see company information. If you like this content, please hit subscribe and hit the bell notification so you can be notified when we go live or drop new content on the channel. Now, if you'd like to connect with us, hit us up on social media or join our free community group. All the links to that are right below this video. If you'd like to learn more about Google Workspace and the technology ecosystem, you can join our free Genius Academy by transferring your billing across to itGenius. Or you can join a Workspace Basics Bootcamp. Now, if you're a business owner and you're interested in an audit on your technology stack or your Workspace account, or you're looking to do a project in the tech world, well, you can take advantage of our free consultation. And if you need help right now, then consider joining Concierge or taking up a quick fix with our team for professional support for your tech stack.